let me call your attention first of all that we will have tonight a debate of the Spitzenkandidaten. I love this German word. Those who speak German, I think, can only applaud that at least some words remain in German, not only the English survives in Europe. Anyway, the top candidates will have their debates. This time there will be 5 of them, all of them pro-Europeans. The British Conservatives and their political group and the more Eurosceptics do not participate in this competition. They do not accept this role, what is written in the Lisbon Treaty that was already discussed, that the European Council should take into account the outcome of the forthcoming European elections, who should be the President of the European Commission. In that sense, the Lisbon Treaty actually uses a language which says that the European Parliament should elect the President of the European Commission, which according to some experts actually mean that the European Council has less room of maneuver, whom to candidate, because the Parliament should elect at the end. But we will see, it's a debate, and it's the first time ever that we have this difficult situation in the history of the European integration. Now, we also discussed whether we have these European elections first time very European ones, not only elections but European elections, not second order elections, and we have seen that because of very different contexts, it's very clear that the UK elections are very much Europeanized, maybe not because of the reason we are so happy about it, whilst in other cases the European elections are still probably in a national context and manner. So there might be very different reasoning in different campaigns, how parties behave, how they argue at all, whether these elections are important and how people should vote. We discussed Euroscepticism and populism and all sort of stuff which belongs to it with different terminology, and we realized, I think, during the day how differentiated these parties are. This problem is actually regarding, again, different national, cultural, historical, political background of the rise of Euroscepticism, which is not a new phenomenon, but we realize that the share of the votes which goes to Eurosceptic parties will be higher than ever before. How dangerous it is, there was also a debate whether it's really risky for the future of the European Union, or maybe it's a normal phenomenon which we have to live with in the future. We also touched upon the issues of, from many perspectives, the European political party system and its relation to the national parties, and whether the next election, European election next week, will have an impact on the national political parties, and whether the whole EU will change, not on that European, at that European level, but maybe in the national context, once again creating a different atmosphere, political atmosphere, inside the member states and at European level. So from that perspective, the elections certainly matter a lot next week. We talked a lot about the East-West divide inside the European Union, maybe less about the North-South divide, but we are in Hungary, so maybe that's the reason why we discuss more that issue. Again, maybe strange for us from Hungary that again we are called East, but inside the EU, certainly we are on the East, we are on the periphery. However, we prefer the phrase Central Europe in a more global European perspective much better. But that's it, and we realize that in many cases the values, the issues, the concerns of the people are quite different between the West and the East, and sometimes also inside the Central European Visegrad countries, we have realized that differentiation is actually quite high. We started in the morning with a roundtable debating the special Hungarian situation, and what I just want to recall your memory is that it's again a unique case when the ruling party, Fidesz in the Hungarian case, is part of the European People's Party and the political group of the European People's Party in the parliament, but actually has a very clear, more and more Eurosceptic stance and position with its freedom fight, with its campaign for more respect to Hungary from Brussels, with a very nationalistic rhetoric. And we in Hungary also discussed in the break whether Fidesz will actually rejoin the European People's Party in the European Parliament, or whether Viktor Orbán has a second thought, maybe to leave lips sooner or later and probably join the European conservatives, the Tories. We will see. It's very risky. We don't know his motivations very well. He might lose, he might gain, but it's true that regarding his views, what we also found in our research PERS index, what we elaborated in our report, that actually Fidesz views are closer to that group of the conservatives than to the European People's Party's more center-right approach. In politics anything might happen. It doesn't mean that Fidesz will change its party affiliation on European level, but the question mark still remains with us. Now, whether we will have a very different European Parliament, that's one question, but whether we will have a very different European Union after the elections for the forthcoming years, maybe the number one issue what we discussed, that's the case of the United Kingdom. Without the United Kingdom, we will have a totally different European Union. I think that most of us don't want to see that development at all. We hope that the UK will remain with us. We hope that Hungary will remain a member state of the European Union. However, we discussed, and that's another issue, whether how the EU can react to the breaches of the European values in case a member state behaves in an anti-European way regarding checks and balances, constitutional control, etc., where again Hungary is the number one player. We haven't talked much about the turnout, but there might be a hope that because of the Europeanization of the European elections, the turnout might be higher. There might be some different views here, but there are at least this hope that the rise of the Eurosceptic parties might help the pro-European parties to mobilize their supporters in many countries, and maybe, again, in different contexts, the turnout might be a little bit higher, which maybe is not a number one issue for political scientists, but in the public discourse, it would be an argument for the legitimization of the European project. Now, at the end, I want to use again this phrase that maybe we will have a European Union where we have maybe more politics and maybe less policies, and just in contrary to the to the nation states, to the member states, where in some countries, or maybe many, like in Hungary, we have now too much politics and too few policies. But we need maybe a new balance between the two levels of a multi-level governance what we actually have in the European Union. So that's for the summary. There are some more things what I have to tell. First of all, and now I get very technical, I asked our guests, whom I like to thank that they all came to Budapest and participated here and made their presentations. I would like to ask you to give your boarding cards to Zsuzsa Tormási if you haven't done it yet. And it's very important because our sponsor, the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung, can finance this conference only if you give your boarding cards to Zsuzsa Tormási. That's in our contract.
To me.
Zsuzsi Vég, sorry. Zsuzsa is already left. Another Zsuzsa. This is Zsuzsi Vég. Thank you. And I want to thank you, Zsuzsi Vég, and all the others who, some of them already left, Katanagy and Ildi and Zsófi. I think they all made a really great job and made this conference possible. I hope that we will have some more occasions. As I said at the beginning, this was the third conference of the Hungarian Europe Society on European elections, which means that at every election, European election, when Hungary participated, we organized a conference. So I hope to see you all in 5 years once again here, or maybe in a shorter period. Yes, something else what I have to say? Yeah, I should say thank you to the interpreters and certainly to the Open Society Archives once again. So thank you for